Hey y'all, it's your girl Gemini Jazz, and we are back with another video. And today we are going to be discussing Chiron through all 12 zodiac signs. Okay, so first and foremost, before we dive into all of this good stuff about Chiron, because we have lots of things to discuss when it comes to Chiron. It's such a deep and mysterious energy to kind of navigate. Okay, but before we get into all of that, I'd just like to say thank you for being here. If you are new to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you are returning, welcome back. Thank you for being here. I hope things have been going well on your end and all that good stuff. And I don't have any announcements outside of what I always, kind of suggest. But if you are looking to dive more into what we're going to talk about in this video and get readings or more insight individually on your chart, hit the description box below because I have all of my contact information, my website, my social platforms, so on and so forth. And you can access me and all of my services, including my membership, the Celestial City, that is only $33.33 per month, as well as the readings that I have available at this time. Okay, so now let's dive into this video about Chiron in the signs. So Chiron, what is Chiron, right? Chiron is an asteroid, and we all know about that, right? It's an asteroid, it's not a planet, and it's often referred to as the wounded healer, right? Chiron is connected to our deepest wounds, right? The knowledge and also the healing that comes along with that. So, the self-healers, we all have that ability to heal ourselves. We all have the ability to know what these wounds and whatnot are stemming from. We just have to tap in. So Chiron is utilized in astrology to show us where our emotional baggage is, so to speak. So the lesson that Chiron evolves basically is the ways that we recognize and deal with our deepest wounds, right? Or sometimes how we don't deal with our deepest wounds. And a lot of that comes from our earliest encounters with life, with people, our relating experiences, right? Memories and things that are taught to be hidden, right? Because they are basically deemed unpleasant or not good or harmful or painful. And so therefore they must then be unacceptable. And so because of these energies, this is where emotions like guilt and shame, abandonment, low self-esteem, low self-worth, fears about being rejected, unworthiness, all of these things come into play because of how society deems certain emotions and certain encounters with life to be unacceptable. Now, wherever Chiron falls in our birth chart, preferably by sign, right? First and foremost, you got to recognize the sign, which is why this video is here. So recognize what sign Chiron is, and then you take into account the house placement. Where is Chiron in your house? Like with the first house, second house, eighth house, wherever, because then that gives it a different flavor to what's happening with Chiron being in, just say, Aries, or Chiron in Virgo, so on and so forth. So once you take into account the sign, as well as the house placement, then you have to pay attention to the aspects that it forms with other planets and other houses and whatnot in your chart. So you can recognize by seeing all these things, the area in which we feel vulnerable or quote unquote weak, or these things that might really evoke feelings of low self-esteem and low self-worth that we were previously speaking about. Okay, so Chiron's placement, in turn, what it does is it shines a light on our past hurts, our wounds, things, even such as like childhood trauma, all of those experiences, those ill experiences, from previous, things, even maybe in past life type of situations, depending on where it falls in your chart, right? So this is what we like to call emotional baggage, right? So this is what it's doing is shining a light, so to speak, or revealing, how our repeated interactions with others or with the world, excuse me, with the world, so to speak, will provoke our insecurities, and maybe even, you know, what we deem as being failures. So there's also an option, right? This is where that quote unquote free will comes in, because although it's revealing it, we still have to make a choice to see it, right? So that's kind of where that line goes in between that Chiron energy. Chiron's purpose is to make us realize that our weak spots are not feelings that we can erase or disregard, rather than they are something that need to be embraced. They cannot necessarily be denied, right? We cannot just say, you know, this terrible thing that I feel about myself needs to be ignored, because it only amplifies more of that emotion, more of that feeling, right? So let's think of it this way. Take peekaboo, the game peekaboo, for example. Just because you're covering your eyes, it does not mean the person or the thing on the other side of your hand does not exist. You're simply choosing not to see it. So that's the way that we can see Chiron. Chiron gives us an opportunity to recognize that there's something still on the other side of what we can't see. We have to literally just make the choice to pull our hands down and say, I see this for what this is. Now, what are we going to do about it? Facing your fears, facing those insecurities and those feelings of guilt and shame and whatnot. Okay, so if we forget the experience, right, this is how we think. If we forget the experience itself, then our bodies and minds will forget it also. No, that's not the truth, right? Our bodies and minds will still contain that feeling, right, as a sensory or a trace memory. And if you have not read the book, The Body Holds the Number, it goes into more detail about this on a psychological aspect of things, okay? So now, how do we use Chiron for our growth and our gain, right? So all these feelings of shame and guilt and all these low vibrational emotions that we're speaking about, right? But how can we in turn transmute that energy and turn the pain into purpose, right? And making that purpose, or making that all of that lucrative for us and even pleasurable, right? So Chiron's cycle of reoccurrence, basically, Chiron, what it does in turn, it creates these situations, right, in life, these circumstances in life that's going to trigger us. But in turn, the reward comes from Chiron when we learn to integrate our painful experiences, allowing these triggers to invite us to navigate why we're being triggered, where this is stemming from, how can we grow through this, right? And integrate these experiences as a part of our identities, right? So this is turning that pain into purpose and also pleasure. Right. So, but keep in mind that as long as we continue to view these imperfections that need to be removed or purged from us, then we'll continue to see them as flaws in others as well as ourselves, right? Because it's all about mirroring. Every situation and every person in our life is mirroring some aspect of ourselves, right? So, this is going to continue to impact our capacity for relationships and mutual understanding of others if we continue to see Chiron, or continue to see our wounds or these feelings that we have, our insecurities, as flaws, so to speak, okay, instead of using them to empower us to actually help heal other people. So now, without further ado, let's start navigating Chiron through the signs. Hello, friends. So today we're going to cover Chiron in the sign of Aquarius. Okay, so Chiron in Aquarius placements typically have a hard time working with lots of people or in large organizations, as they have a hard time with becoming an individual. So it's kind of hard to see yourself in a pack when you don't see yourself as one. Okay, so part of their journey is to heal that wound of their identity, understanding their own sense of autonomy, who they are outside of the labels and the social norms of what your roles and duties should be as a person, right? These people tend to get lost in the crowd due to that lack of self-identity, right? So Aquarius is opposite of Leo. And Leo is about your identity. It's about your purpose, your ego. So they have an undeveloped ego kind of sense of energy where they don't really know who they are. They don't know their direction. They don't know all of these different things. And so typically with this placement, there is a fear of success and publicity. So they will shy away from that, because also Aquarius is all about the humanitarian efforts. It's about the people, it's about community. And so they will tend to do the complete opposite, which is be by themselves, kind of hone in on just them, but still not knowing who they are and what they enjoy and what their purpose or their direction is, right? So they will still need to work towards overcoming this type of wound, right? So the trauma with this placement typically comes from losing close friends or siblings, at a young age. Also, this can indicate someone who was adopted at some point in their life, or their first like best friend could have been like their sibling, and this person just did not take on them as an individual, didn't give them any attention, probably even berated them, knocked them down. Also, Aquarius is all about our goals and our vision. So you will see that these people typically have no idea what they are wanting to do in life, what their vision for life is. They lack that motivational goal of, hey, this is my identity and I want to do this. This is my purpose. This is my calling. This is what brings me passion. So also, the healing journey happens for these people when they do great things, such as like philanthropy or humanitarian work. So you'll see these people typically in charity work or nonprofit, or doing some type of service to others to also build up and benefit other people. So with Chiron and Aquarius, the wound is to the wound is really associated with your sense of belonging in the community, which also may manifest in different ways. So you might not feel as though you are part of something bigger than yourself. You are part of a community. You might not also feel like you are, even you hold a standing, like you, what is the word, where you don't hold any ground to speak or care or direct a group of individuals, right? That you're not a leader, that you're not a person to build community, and that you don't belong. You might have a or a longing sense of that I want to belong to something, but also in the same time, you might feel like you don't belong. Okay. So these people also, they feel like outsiders. They feel isolated and removed from the rest of humanity. They feel different from others. Aquarius is already eccentric and, different. So they feel awkward, right? It's that awkward, the social awkwardness. It is just completely awkward. Their ideas, their motivations, the things that they are interested in, they either don't know what they are, or they don't feel connected enough to even have an understanding of that, right? So they feel different. They don't really embrace their eccentric side. They more so shame it, right? So it's kind of like they feel like something is wrong with them and that they can't fit in. Also, these people feel alone, even when they are in a crowd or surrounded by large groups or their families and friends, they still feel very isolated and very alone. And they also tend to seek solitude and feel relief when they are alone. So, because it is such a comfort for them, that's where they tend to stay, unless they, build up that sense of awareness of what this Chiron energy is doing, and then they face it, right? So, there's also a tendency to be reactionary, eccentric, and contrary, going out of your way to be different. And that can also kind of indicate there's some sense of self identity issues. There's some wounds. There's some self esteem problems when you're just doing the absolute most to be recognized, to be different. You're trying so hard to identify who it is that you are, that you create this faux expression or this faux mask kind of energy of who it is that you think you are, because you do feel different. You just don't know what that different is. So you just create something that is not necessarily in tune or in touch with who it is that you are. Also, people with Chiron and Aquarius, they may feel friendly, but also they feel distant, right? Because Aquarius is about friendships and socializing and, connecting in community. And so they feel the opposite. They may on the inside want to connect, but they just don't feel like they can actually genuinely build a connection with other people. So they tend to avoid close personal relationships. You will see that people with Chiron and Aquarius tend to, be standoffish when it comes to meeting new people and building friendships, or even going to events that are, where it's going to be a lot of people. The humanitarian causes help you feel like you belong. So it's really great to get into philanthropy or humanitarian efforts, join a nonprofit, begin a nonprofit, things like that, because this is where the healing happens, by you actually facing your fears of being in a crowd and being different, and then doing something that is different. Okay. Also, seek contact with a higher consciousness, right? So go out and try and find the deeper meaning of life and get a larger perspective of what this world really is and what life really is. Learn new things, learn things that are, Aquarius rules like astrology, Uranus does. So Uranus rules Aquarius. So like learn things like astrology or any kind of other divination or, tool, metaphysics, things like that. So those things will also give you a brighter or larger perspective of life, and it'll make you feel like you belong to something bigger than just, this. So it helps you heal in that aspect also. Also, it helps you develop a sense of self-awareness so you can recognize this. Okay, so the healing journey for Chiron and Aquarius involves the search for a connection, right? Belonging to a community. And the gift, once they kind of get through that, is objectivity, right? Standing back and seeing the whole picture, seeing that they are just a part of this large picture, and then being able to appreciate that, their part in the grand scheme of things. So through increasing their knowledge of the world and their perspective of life, they can start seeing how everything is interconnected and then appreciating that. And also, they can see how, the connection with themselves and, with the wholeness of themselves. And then that is what's going to help them find their place in the world, because it's kind of like the womb. They don't feel like they belong. So take the time to really like spend time alone to process this, and that's okay to process and be connected with yourself first and foremost, because in that connection with the self you can find your connection to the universe, and within that finding your connection to the universe, you recognize that connection happens within, it's in yourself. And so the people with Chiron and Aquarius, they're very capable of great things, that are original ideas, truly independent thought, and bringing something new and innovative to the scene that has not been brought up in whatever type of way or whatever field it is or whatever, situation it might be. They have this ability to tap into this genius energy that's innovative and original and independent of thought, and they can provoke thought, and they can also encourage people to tap into their quirkiness and their eccentricism, all of those things. So yeah, people with this placement can use their individual mind creatively in order to kind of separate between different systems of thought, right? Kind of like compartmentalizing things and helping others see these moving parts to the whole. Also, being alone means that you can communicate with the whole universe, right? So you might feel like you have been alone this entire time, but then you recognize that you have not, because you've been connected to the universe, even within your singleness, even within your, being isolated. You have been connected. You have been speaking to the universe, and you have been connected to all, right? Humanity is all connected. And so you bring that connectedness back to others once you understand what that is and you come to terms with that, and then you go out and you help others, you bring that connectedness back to them, right? Healing humanity. That is that Aquarius energy. So you can see the divine plan and all of the pieces that fit into the puzzle. You can see that and recognize that, and then be able to share that with others. Okay, so that is all that I have for you for Chiron in Aquarius. I hope this has been helpful, whether you are watching it for yourself or watching it for someone you love and care about. Okay, so if you are interested in diving deeper into your Chiron placement or your natal chart or any other reading, please feel free to hit the description box below. And you can reach out to me via my website, and all my links are down there. And we can get you a reading and all that good stuff. Or you can join the membership for $33 a month, or you can purchase your Chiron candles, which are Reiki infused. All right, so thank you once again. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this video, and I will talk to you all